Hi, I want to talk about rhythm and later about pattern, and there's important differences between the two. So let's take a look at a few slides and see what I mean. So, rhythm and pattern. First, starting with rhythm. And I want you to understand that rhythm is the repetition of characteristics of elements, not necessarily exact repetition. And we'll get to that when we talk about pattern. And I want you to listen to these, and I'm hoping you guys can hear this over this lecture. Um, what you're hearing is raindrops falling off of my roof, hitting my grill outside. And we can tell that these are all raindrops. They all still have the same general sound, right? Like the shape of the sound is the same, but they aren't falling in a consistent timed beat. So they're not happening as an exact repetition. They're happening as a rhythm, the same sort of shapes of sound. And we can obviously translate that into visual art. If we look at a painting like this by Jackson Pollock, this was done in the 50s, and we're used to seeing work like this now, obviously, drip paintings. But this sort of action painting was developed by him. But we can see that all of the marks are made up of the same sort of mark making, the same sort of drips. So we can see this is very rhythmic. And in fact, this painting is called Autumn Rhythm. Here's another one of his, I believe this was actually an earlier work. This is the Guggenheim mural. This was at the University of Iowa when I was there in the art museum, and I used to sit under this and study. Um, but this is a very large painting, and you can see that this is rhythmic, the same sort of mark making happening throughout the whole painting, but it's not exact repetition, right? So these sort of same strokes happening over and over again, like they're all made up of the same kind of shape, but they aren't exactly the same. So here's the repetition of curves. They are not all the same, but they all have the same general structure. So we can take a little bit of an aside here and talk about some general characteristics of lines within rhythmic design. And usually when we see vertical lines, it implies sturdiness and stature and height. And here we've got some vertical lines. They're curved, and there is repetition of shape, but not exactly in the same size or same place. So again, this is not a pattern. This is rhythm. Some more vertical lines, and you can see this all kind of follows the same rule. Like the line is creased and then expands outward. The next line is creased in a different spot, expand outward. Same thing going on through the whole painting. This is a Bridget Riley painting. But they are not all exactly the same, but they all look like they fit together. Horizontal lines, on the other hand, convey width, obviously, strength, definitely less dramatic than vertical lines, and they usually feel more settled and calm. So here's an interesting photo of horizontal lines, and these are sand dunes, but it implies something anthropomorphic. And so rhythm and texture can combine to feel evocative of other things, so that's what's happening here. So smooth curves and shapes and lines do feel calming. Contrast that, here's another horizontal line structure that kind of goes against the general rules because the spikiness creates a sense of energy and even a sort of anxiety. Here's a Mondrian painting, and we've got an equal emphasis of vertical and horizontal. Um, but there's this sense of energy created, and it's all because there's rhythm. There's the repetition of kinds of shapes, but colors change and positions change. And this works even if we take the color out of it and make it black and white. We still see there is rhythm. There's not exact positioning of shapes, so there's no pattern here. I play with this a lot in my paintings. I like the idea of paintings that look almost like patterns, but really they're just rhythmic. And I think that holds a lot of interest and keeps your interest involved. So this is going to be a lot more fun of an assignment compared to the last where we got really clinical and technical. This assignment is simply you dividing up a page and making examples of rhythm, not pattern, but rhythm. You can use any media you like. So pens, pencil, paint, collage, markers, however you want to go about it. Now, the instructions give you instructions on gridding out the page. Um, but the minimum you could do is 10 examples of rhythm. And obviously, filling out a whole page makes things a lot more interesting. So here's a few. See, that's really cool. There is a bit of pattern happening here, but the rest of this definitely works. This is really cool too. So this goes from really carefully designed elements like this to sort of repetition of way of making scribble. So I want you to get really creative with this. This is a really fun assignment. And this is a great example right here. Um, I love the variety. I love the different media involved. There's about everything here. I don't see any collage work, but none of the media are required. I just want to see a variety. This one's particularly interesting right here. So read through the assignment instructions and write to me if you've got any questions at all.